Alright, check it out. So, we just got this new Grand Hero Battle unit, the Fallen Lloyd, for the upcoming Fallen Heroes banner. And this guy, first of all, his artwork is sick as hell, man. This dude has some of the best Grand Hero Battle art we've ever gotten. Of course, that is courtesy of the one and only Kita Senri. Couldn't have chosen a better artist myself to do Fallen Lloyd here. So, very wonderful stuff. But it turns out he's actually a really, really good merge project if you want to build him up. So we're just going to be talking about some builds today, comparing him to other similar units and things like that. So why don't we start with his stat line here. So he's got 41 HP, he's got 43 attack, he's got 46 speed, 31 defense, and 32 res, which gives him a 193 BST overall. That is currently in line with all of the infantry melee units that we get now, so that does make sense. And he does have one super boon. It's on plus attack, which you would think a guy like Lloyd would probably have it in speed, but plus attack is actually fine. I mean, we'll definitely take it. And even though he's only got 46 speed, you look at some of the new units that come out, they all typically tend to have like 47 and up. However, that is a little bit deceptive because his weapon actually gives him speed up 3 flat. So he's getting a lot more speed than it looks like, and his weapon is really good too. So at the start of the turn, if his HP is over 25%, he is granting foe penalty doubler to himself and allies in 2 spaces, and he's inflicting speed and defense -7 on the nearest foe, wherever the hell they are on the map, and then it chains to the nearest foes within 2 spaces of them. So it's a really good debuff effect. He can just be plopped on any team, specifically in arena mode, where you can just have him stand his ass anywhere on the map, and he's just helping all your other allies do a lot better in combat by giving them foe penalty doubler and doing this really nice debuff to speed and defense. Also, when he's in combat, if his HP is over 25%, he's getting all stats of 5, and a further bonus to all of his stats equal to 15% of his speed at the start of combat. There is no cap on that, so the sky's the limit with how much speed you want to stack on him and just gain even more stats out of that. So he has the potential to be a crazy stat ball as well. Then he's also got 40% DR on enemies' first attacks, which includes their Brave Hit. So we get some DR there as well. And he also inflicts guard on the enemies. I think this is the one downside here. Instead of inflicting guard, I would have preferred if he gained special acceleration. But I guess we'll take it. I mean, that's perfectly fine. Guard is fine. The reason why is because that's going to clash with the guard echo skill, which I think is probably overall just his best echo skill. But it is what it is. And foe penalty doubler is a pretty rare support to be giving. No one really does that besides one of the dancers does it. I think it might be Triandra, but I can't remember. I think it's like the attuned Triandra who does that. So it's not a very common support to be getting. So one of the more rare ones is definitely nice. You want to be getting very creative and different with your supports because a lot of the supports just do similar stuff like give, I don't know, no follow-up and things like that. You want to have, like, different stuff going on so they don't clash with other allies. So that's good there. For his base kit, he's got Dragon Fang, he's got Attack and Speed Ideal 3, and then he has Repel 3. We'll definitely take Repel on a Grand Hero Battle unit. It can also be used as a pickup for Repel 4, so it's good for fodder, and then it's also decent enough for a budget kit, and also just to finally get something decent on a Grand Hero Battle unit. So everything checks out with Lloyd so far. Now let's go ahead and compare him to the contemporary unit, which is Lumera, our previously released Grand Hero Battle that was also a Godsword. So Lumera gets 5 extra flowers than Lloyd because she was a later release. So that's why I've given both of them as many dragon flowers as they can for this stat comparison here. So Lloyd's got 42 HP versus Lumera's 45. She does beat him out on HP, which would matter a little bit on certain builds and skills. Like if you're trying to stack HP for Infantry Pulse 4, it might be better on Lumera than Lloyd here. Alright, he's also got 44 attack, whereas she has 45. Now, I believe both of them have super boons on attack. We can quickly check that. Yeah, she does, and then he does as well. So Lumera does beat him on 1 point in attack. Alright, then in terms of speed, Lloyd beats her. He's got 47 speed. She's got 45. She does have a super boon, and he doesn't on speed. But it doesn't matter, because he's still 1 point higher regardless. Alright, then on defense, he's got 32, and Lumera's got 35. And then on res, he just kicks her butt. He's got 33 res, and she's only got 27. So a lot of his additional stat points over her were pumped into res, which is fine. And another interesting thing, too, is that his weapon is giving him that 15% bonus to all his stats based on speed. Lumera doesn't have that. She just gets all stats of 5 on her weapon. So he's actually going to be way better than her statistically, even though it doesn't appear that way. So he is definitely the premier free-to-play Godsword of choice at the moment, I would have to say. Okay, then if we go ahead and take a look at his scoring for Arena Mode, I have Brave Robin here as a proxy because they didn't update to put Lloyd in here just yet. But they do actually score the exact same, and if we take a look at other high-scoring options free-to-play, Cyril actually scores less than the new Lloyd is going to be able to, and the reason why is because he's got access to the distant counter melee seal. In the future, they're probably going to do a close counter seal as well. I can't see why they wouldn't at this point, but until that point comes, Lloyd actually does get the one-up on Cyril in terms of scoring, which I think is a pretty good benchmark. And then he also score ties Vigard and Kellum, which is pretty good too, because these are just armored units that are just going to stand around on your arena team, not really doing too much. I mean, Vigard actually has quite a bit of value now. He can be a decent option against like Emblem Ike and stuff like that. So with his crazy amount of defense and then his color advantage there, he's not like useless, but having a unit that can just stand on the team and debuff the enemies and support is also going to be really good. So there we go for stat comparisons and scoring. And now let's go ahead and take a look at some builds for our boy Lloyd. So I wanted to start things off with this first build here. This is going to be an arena build. So, of course, you just stand there with Lloyd so your other arena units can do better. And if he needs to fight, if push comes to shove, he actually can hold his own here. We've got bonus doubler 4 and distant counter seal. Normally, you would want to give him distant bonus doubler, but I mean, if we're running the distant counter seal for scoring, you might as well just run bonus doubler 4. Then we have attack and speed ruse 4. What he would actually want is attack and res ruse 4, because his weapon already debuffs speed and defense, so you would want to also debuff attack and res on the ruse. Unfortunately, that skill does not exist just yet, so we got to go for this instead. But it does a lot of debuffs as well. You can just rally an ally. You're forced into using rally skills to score in arena anyway, so like just being able to rally and then inflict like Schism and Discord and stuff is going to be pretty helpful. Also, the extra debuff to attack, since he doesn't debuff attack on his weapon, plays up nicely with the faux penalty doubler effect that he's giving allies already. So, really nice support there. And then we've got Def Res Pledge and Attack Echo to gain attack, defense, and res up 6. So we can kind of self-sustain our own bonus doubler with our own stat bonuses. And we also have the Marth Ring with godlike reflexes, so after he's got Pledge giving him the acceleration, he can just keep on looping godlike reflexes over and over, at least as long as the enemies don't have tempo or something like that. So this is the arena build. Okay, next up we have a Lagoo's Friend build, which, of course, him not having -1 special trigger on his weapon is super clutch right now, because that means he's able to run godlike reflexes and still have Lagoo's Friend. So even though Lagoo's Friend is cutting his base weapon's DR by half, it's not the biggest deal, because the trade-off is that we get true non-pierceable DR based on our higher of defense or res, which both of them are pretty decently evenly matched, so it doesn't really matter which one it checks for, but it is what it is. Times Pulse here gives us essentially -1 special trigger without actually having -1 special trigger. And then Lagoo's Friend will instantly ramp us into godlike reflexes on the enemy's first attack. So you can just chain loop godlike reflexes over and over again. And then we have also the Ike's Ring on here to get even more non-pierceable DR. We've got Guard Echo here. He's already doing guard on his weapon. So really this is just there for the the Brave Attack DR on the enemy's first attack. It's being cut in half by Lagoo's Friend, but that's perfectly fine. We're getting 10% Brave Attack DR on Guard Echo, and then 20% from his weapon, so it adds up to about 30% Brave Attack DR, which is something. It's not the nuttiest thing in the world, but at least it's there. And then it's just going to combo with all the non-pierceable DR from GLR, the Ike Ring, and Lagoo's Friend. So this build can work out pretty well. The one downside, of course, is that he doesn't have Null Sea Disrupt like Ike does, but how many units are going to be able to do all of that? It's just asking too much. Alright, next up we have a Buffer 4 build, so another Godlike Reflexes build, but this time we're going for the Marth Ring instead of Ike's Ring. So that gets us down to a 2-hit Godlike Reflexes, so on turn 1, Buffer 4 just instantly charges it, and then we can just loop it over and over with Attack and Speed Pledge. And once again, we're just going for bonus doubler in the Seal and also the Ace skill, so just doubled up on bonus doubler. And this time around, Guard Echo is giving us the full 20% DR, so combine that with his 40% DR Brave Attack on his weapon. This could be an alternate option if you don't want to go for Lagoo's Friend. Alright, and here is another option. This time we've got Gambit 4, because again, not having -1 special trigger on your weapon is actually pretty good right now. So we go for Miracle on this build with the Ike Ring. Ike's Ring still gives you the non-pierceable DR against ranged opponents if they have their special ready. So you don't need to just start with Miracle ready to get the non-pierceable DR there. So that is definitely helpful. And then the rest is pretty much the exact same thing. We need Pledge very much if we're going to run a weapon with a 5-hit cooldown special. So at least we can get some consistency out of our Miracle. And then once again, just Distant Bonus Doubler to get Distant Counter and a lot of stats. So that should be enough said for that. And then the final build we have here, this one, once again, we're going for Godlike Reflexes and Distant Bonus Doubler. I'm going to show some other skills that you can give him if you want to mix it up a little, but I think for sure Godlike Reflexes is definitely the best special to give him. So Potent 4 actually works out pretty well on this guy too. He doesn't have null follow-up on his weapons, so you can actually get the 80% check for Potent 4 if the enemies have a Wary Fighter skill or something like that. So he still gets his double attack, and then he's still doing quite a lot of damage on that extra hit. So that could definitely work out. This time we've got an Insight, Attack, and Speed instead of Pledge, so we can get some more stats out of that. And then I'm going for the Marth Ring on Godlike Reflexes instead of going for the Ike Ring this time, so we have the 2-hit cooldown. And then once again, just Guard Echo should be enough said at this point. So those are just some build options for him. If I had to pick one, I would say probably the Lagoo's Friend build or probably the Buffer 4 build. I would say one of these two is the one I would go for if I was running him outside of Arena. And then, of course, if you're going to run him for Arena, then something like this would be what you want. And now, finally, let's take a look at some other skills for him. So, No Quarter, of course, is an option for him to pierce DR. But it's not really giving him any protection himself, and then No Quarter also took a big hit from all of these scowl effects going around, so you don't really want to pierce DR on your special anymore necessarily. You would rather just have DR piercing somewhere else, like Legendary Camilla support, or Tempo 4, or Physical Null Follow-Up, or something like that. It's better to do it on your regular attacks than on your special right now. And then Vital Astra could be an option, but, I mean... At this point, I don't think we really want to go for Vital Astra anymore. Then in the A slot, you could go for Clash skills if you want to nullify penalties if the enemies are attacking you or you're moving a lot of spaces. So Clashes are an option. Finish is also an option if you want to just do a little extra damage and get some healing. Prime is an option, but I think Bonus Doubler is just better at this point, especially for infantry types, where Prime can be given to non-infantry, but if it's an infantry type, you definitely want Bonus Doubler 4, especially now with all the units that can turn off bonuses or steal them. So I think Primes are finally on their way out at this point. And then Hexblade could be an option too if you want to get some adaptive damage on him. Then for the B slot, we could go for Bulwark skills. Attack and Speed Bulwark 4 could definitely be a solid option for him. Tempo 4 also could be an option for him, so he can get some DR piercing on regular hits, and then also with the Tempo effect, if you combo that with Pledge, you can definitely loop your Godlike Reflexes pretty consistently. So that's definitely an option. And then, of course, Null C Disrupt 4 if you want to be able to counterattack anybody regardless of if they have Fire Sweep or not. And then finally, for the C-slot passive, you can go for Infantry Pulse if you want to support allies with -1. It also is giving him -1 as well at the start of turns, so it could be an alternate method to get 2-hit cooldown on Godlike Reflexes. And then Infantry Null Follow-Up, which gives him Null Follow-Up and Infantry Allies in 2 spaces Null Follow-Up. Then it also gives him the Warp effect, so could be an option there if you want to just get some more support out of him. But there you guys go. That is going to wrap us up for all of the builds on the Fallen Lloyd. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, but I think this guy is definitely a solid and worthwhile investment if you want to go for him. So that's going to wrap us up for this one. this is your boy Tacho signing out. So take care, fellas, and I'll catch y'all again on the flip side.